Now then, Professor, what's the problem? Delicate matter, really. It's about a book. Don't you mean the books? One of them's the right one, I'm not sure which. Phoenix Buchanan? That's right, it is I, Phoenix Buchanan, from the Paddington 2 review sketch. From the Nicholas Payne main channel sketches. Well, the sketches are released on the Nicholas Payne bonus content channel. Go check them out. Individually without having to be in the reviews. So, and they're technically done by the same guy, so technically they're set in the same universe. That's why characters can pop in from one video, one sketch to another, and one channel to another, including the Universals. That makes sense. But hold on, I thought you had died. In the Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald review sketch, Grindelwald killed you. How are you still alive? I escaped. Fair enough. So what do you want? Anyway, I have the books. I think it's this one. I think this is the one you're looking for. This is the one I want. I'm going to take both of them, just in case. Alright, see ya. Well, I'm the doctor and I say you can't have it. Bye. Rats. Or at least that Skagra person doesn't have it. Give me the books. No. Spoke too soon. Oh shit, that means I have to go and get it back now. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Season 17, the unbroadcast sixth and final story, Shada. Of course, due to strike action at the BBC, the story was unfinished, so it was never transmitted it would have been transmitted in January and February 1980 had it been. John Nathan Turner, funny enough, who was the producer of who came in after Graham Williams, wanted to actually finish the story and release it maybe as a Christmas special or something. Alas, that never happened. However, in 1992, John Nathan Turner was able to produce the VHS version of the story with linking material from Tom Baker and brand new incidental music by one of the three main composers of the McCoy era, Keith McCulloch, who composed that amazing theme tune, by the way. And that's the version you get on the 2013 DVD, Shada. With 2013 release of Shada, alongside the 2003 webcast starring Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor, and these can be found on the Steelbook Blu-ray of the 2017 version, more on that in a second. The reason it wasn't finished was, as I mentioned, strike action, and because after strike action had ended, the BBC needed the studios for Christmas stuff, and then by the time they had finished with that, the contract for Doctor Who had finished. Graham Williams was no longer the producer. They were not allowed to finish the serial due to their time being run out. So, yeah, strike action and Christmas program taking priority for studio bases, and contract times running out were the cause of Shada being unfinished. And I'm not sure what cause stopped John Nathan Turner from producing the serial himself. As an episode of the show for a Christmas broadcast or something, but one reason or another he just wasn't allowed to, and he eventually managed to make the 1992 linking material version, and the story would remain unfinished, although several other versions of the story would come along during the 25 years between that and the 2017 version. Of course, we got the Big Finish audio play, which I've actually got a CD of somewhere around here, starring Paul McGann. I'll get that out for you and show it off. Oops. and a BBC I webcast based of that. And of course, in 2011, Ian Levine tried to make his own part animated version of story. Let's have a look. Here we go. Here's the Paul McGann audio version. This is what the webcast is animated version. The webcast takes the audio from. As I was saying, so Ian Levine also tried to do his own part animated version, and that was complete in 2011. 2012 saw the book release of the Shada novel adapted by Gareth Roberts, which also included an audiobook version narrated by Lana Ward with John Leeson as K9. And then there's also an unofficial novel version out there as well by a fan group or something. And now finally we come to 2017, where BBC Studios and the animation company behind The Power of the Daleks, well, it's BBC themselves, the BBC had animated The Power of the Daleks, and after that success they decided to animate the missing scene, the unfilmed scenes of Shada, plus also include new visual effects and models, plus a few extra new bonus scenes that they would feature, like K9 fighting the Krark, and the final scene with the Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, in the TARDIS, and also new music from another McCoy era composer, Mark Ayers. A slightly inferior soundtrack to the McCulloch version. I really, especially when a Krark comes around the corner at what would have been the cliffhanger of Part 4, where K9's is unable to shoot the Krark, stop the Krark going any further, and it's coming into the think tank lab at the Doctor and Chris. There is a really great track from McCulloch in the 1992 version that is just really great, and you can hear it in the trailer for the Legacy collection, which Shada is included on as part of, with More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS. It's a great track. When we get to the 2017 version, they have a slightly weaker track in there. Not as good. I'm not going to bash on Mark Ayers. I think he does a good soundtrack, but I think McCulloch's is slightly superior in places. But so yeah, and because of the 1992 version doesn't appear on this DVD, all the Blu-ray, you have to get the steelbook. Same for the webcast. I'm flashing both DVDs. So yeah, I wouldn't normally do that. For the stories I've got two special edition and original edition of, but oh well. Anyway, so the plot of Shada is that there is this Gallifreyan professor called Professor Chronotis living in Cambridge. I'm not sure why, but he decided to go there. And he's taken some stuff from Gallifrey, including the worshipful and ancient lore of Gallifrey, and he wants the Doctor to return it back to Gallifrey. However, this scientist, Skagra, is on the hunt for it because he wants to create a universal mind as part of world evolution. And in order to do that, he needs the help of a Time Lord criminal called Sally Avian, who is imprisoned on the Time Lord planet of Shada, and he needs the book to help get to Shada and release Sally Avon. I'm not sure how he finds out that the book is with the Professor. I'm not even sure how he found out about the Time Lords, but he does. That's one thing I didn't quite think the story did well, was explain about Skagra. They did say, oh, he's this scientist guy from a planet there. I think a planet that may have connections with the Time Lords. Actually, maybe that's how I knew, but it's not made 100% clear. At least I will say that that is something the 2017 animated version also helps with. Part animated version does, is that they do help clear up some things that may have been left a bit more of a mystery with just the 92 VHS version. So maybe he found out because of that, his connection with the Time Lords, but other than that, not sure. Going back to the plot, the book does get accidentally picked up by this guy called Chris Parsons, who is a student at Cambridge, and he and his friend Claire Keatley discovered that the book is isn't quite what it seems, and it's the first half of the story doesn't. What would have been the first 2 or 3 episodes do feel a bit like a pass the parcel of the book. One character takes the book, someone else takes it back, and then eventually gets grabbed by Skagra. And there's a bit of a running around, lots of back and forth between places, but I think it's handled well. The location filming, I think they said it was all done, but there are bits in the animated version that I can see that look like they could have been filmed on location, but weren't, such as Chris riding his bicycle and at the telephone box. So there may have been some location filming that they thought they might have to come back to later, but didn't get around to doing it. Or the animated version added those scenes in, but I'm not certain how likely that latter is. Maybe the cycling through the city, but not so much the telephone box bit. And that's something I'll come to, the animation on the 2017 version. As I mentioned in my review back in 2018 on main channel, it looks great. Although now rewatching this story again, I did notice that quite a lot of the time the lines didn't quite match the lip movement. And I think this is a weaker point for this story more so than Power of the Daleks or the Macro Terror. I think maybe it's because maybe they're speaking a bit faster, perhaps, than those other stories. Maybe because it's new dialogue, newly recorded dialogue, rather than old soundtrack like the missing episodes. But that being said, I think this version does slightly miss some of the cues at some points when they'll be the mouse won't quite match with the audio. But that's really the only problem I've got with the animated animation. Maybe a few more touch-ups. I think when they get to Macro Terror's animated episodes, they have really improved it since Shada and Power of the Daleks ones. And at the time when Shada came out, I thought it was the best animated episodes alongside Power. So maybe my opinion on Macro Terror being the best animated episodes are probably going to go down. Maybe with Faceless ones or something. And on rewatch, the Shada ones, they're really great animated episodes, but I don't know if I'd say they're the next best after Macros. I think maybe Power's slightly better. Certainly in the lip syncing anyway. So I think the movements are handled well though. They're definitely better. It's definitely a better animation than some other animated episodes of missing episodes. The transitions are perfect though. I'll say that was one thing I was worried about with the animated version when I first saw it. I was worried that the transitions weren't going to work, but they were great. It was great actually. Perfect. As for the linking material version, well, that version, because it has to have the linking material, some scenes did feel like they were going from one place to another. It was too soon. There was like you would have one scene in the professor's rooms, and then that's the next scene after Tom Baker's finished his lines. And it just felt maybe they were just going back and forth from quite a few places. But as the 2017 version proved, there was other bits. There are other bits in between. So, as something that may have been a little bit disjointed, and in the older version, is fixed in the newer version because those scenes have been filled in, which is good. But speaking as a linking material version, I think they've done a brilliant job with the linking material connection, with Tom Baker giving another great performance and a really great 3-minute introduction at the start. And as Tom Baker's just going around as in character, I should say, as Tom Baker in character as the Doctor, he's going around a museum looking at old monsters from both his Tom Baker era and other eras of the show until he gets to the Krag, and then that's where we sink into the linking material. There are also some points where he's standing next to K9 talking about it as well. And I think Tom Baker does a great delivery on these lines. He is absolutely brilliant. And the fact that he's able to talk big chunks of unfinished story in single takes. I mean, maybe they did multiple takes, but in one go at a time, he does it brilliantly, and I love the way he pretty much wraps up the story in a similar, not too dissimilar way to how he wraps up the 2017 version when he's back, although maybe with a bigger that one has a bigger smile. But I think he really loves that final line, that final scene where he's talking about people with different, how someone in like 200 years' time might not recognize the Doctor because he seems to be a nice old man. I think he must have really loved that line because he delivers both versions spectacularly. And yeah, I think even with some, though it makes some scenes a little disjointed, the 1992 VHS linking material version is a great, or at least at the time was the best. I think the 1992 VHS version is a great linking material version, and handles the story really well. Now, of course, the 2017 animated version sort of fills in the gaps, and that one just is great, and it's brilliant to see this story in a 2-hour, 18-minute long sort of movie in a way, as Sue Bagfull described it, as opposed to the 6-part version that the VHS version was the linking material version had been. That one had been done as the original 6-part version, whilst the new the 2017 one has been done more of a feature length movie-esque story, a bit like how the Five Doctors was basically a feature length special. The same could be said for Shada, but this one being 2 hours 18 minutes. And yeah, I think it works at that length as well. It's not as long as what a 6-parter would have been. Maybe it might have been, if it had been episodic, it might have been somewhere between 2 hours 20 and 2 hours 30, like the normal 6-parters. But I think how as a single story, flow story, it just flows brilliantly and is handled. And I really enjoyed the plot and really enjoyed the story. I think the supporting characters are the best of the Graham Williams era, excluding that City of Death. After City of Death, these are the best supporting characters of the Graham Williams era of the show. We've got Skagra. He's a great villain, quite fun, mysterious in a way, and the actor playing him is brilliant. I can't remember his name. I don't actually remember the names of all of them. Daniel Hill plays Chris Parsons. He's a fun, enjoyable character. Like Duggan, he goes on this ride with the Doctor and Romana to help out, look after the Professor, played by Dennis Leary. Not Dennis Leary from The Amazing Spider-Man, Dennis Lowry as Professor Chronotis. He's great. Victoria something down below, but maybe it's actually I think this booklet includes the cast list. Okay, Victoria Borgren as Claire Keatoney. She's good. She's very good as Claire, and she's quite a likeable character when she's on screen. Skagra is Christopher Neame. Yeah, he's great. And Dennis Carey as Professor Chris. Okay. Also, by the way, I like how, like with some of the earlier Big Finish CDs, that little strips of Radio Times insets are included on in this booklet for if Shada had been broadcast. Firstly, in its 6-part format, and then as the J&T produced Christmas special, which by the looks of it would have been nearly 2 hours as opposed to 2.5 hours. So that one might have cut some about 15, 20. No, that would have been an hour and 55. That one may have cut about an episode's worth of content, maybe. Because certainly it's 25 minutes. It would have been 25 minutes shorter than the 2017 version if it got made, and 4:35 less than what it would have been if it was a finished 6-part serial. But Anyway, and also David Beardley gives one last great performance as K9, and the guy who plays Wilkin, he's a pretty fun character when he's on screen. The voice cast as well, because some of the actors had passed away in over the nearly 40 years since the original story. I think Dennis Carey and David Beardley certainly had, so I'm not sure who replaced him. Maybe John Leeson for K9, but I'm not 100% certain. He was K9 in the webcast version, but I'm not certain if he replaced him with the new one. Probably, and they might have gotten other actors in for anyone who was not unavailable or passed away. And there's only one scene in this whole story in either version that I don't really like, and that's the penultimate scene where Wilkin brings in a police officer because he discovers Chronosius's room missing. So he believes it's to be stolen, so he reports it to a police officer, and he comes over to try investigate, and they discover the room's back, and then the Doctor and Romana leave in the TARDIS. Before he does that, the police officer is a bit snooty. He's sort of mocking Wilkin, and then when he gets into the room, he's sort of still a bit mocky, and he also is he's not very nice to Chris because he's asking him why he needs aspirin when the professor gives him some after getting possessed earlier in the story. So he has a bit of a headache. He's a bit snooty towards Chris, and he is a bit snooty towards usual student hijinks. Yeah, I know student hijinks can could be a disturbance, a nuisance, but he's just acting like that's the common case, and he's has to deal with it. Fair enough, but taking it out on Chris doesn't seem that nice. And then after the Doctor goes, Chronosius forgets that the TARDIS was there, and the police officer decides to take everyone down to the Bridewell, which, after a quick piece of research, is another name for a prison. That police officer can go and fuck off. That's one thing I think the webcast version actually did better. They got, when they had the police officer character, he just said that he'd take them down to the police station. Well, maybe that's what this guy was thinking to do, but Bridewell's just slang for a jail. So, yeah, he's a prick. So's the webcast version, but at least he says police station. Although, in the webcast version, his teeth are like, in a really cross face. Well, not angry, but cross, annoyed kind of face, and gurning in a way. Cross-gurning. Yeah, I'll talk about the webcast version when we get to the Wilderness Years. But yes, I don't like that penultimate scene, and that's in this version. That's the last scene that was filmed in order of scenes playing out. So it's not necessarily the last scene to be recorded, but the last scene that was that appeared, the last filmed scene that appeers in episodes, like when you're so basically just. So what I mean is that the last scene with the Doctor and the TARDIS is the last scene of the episode, and it's the penultimate, and the stuff with the policeman is the penultimate episode. But with Tom Baker's, with the final scene not being filmed until 2017, it would be the last of the film sequences in the episode. In the episode, the last of the film sequences in the story. So. Yeah, and it's a pretty weak way for that to end. So thankfully, when we got to 2017's version, we got a nice final scene with Tom Baker back as the Fourth Doctor one last time on screen. Anyway, he's still going in audio, but one last time on screen at the moment to record a beautiful final scene. So yeah, it's just that penultimate scene I'm not really happy about, and it's a bit of a shame that is the last scene that was the last scene of the 1992 version that had been filmed, and it would have left the episode on a bit of a not so nice note if it wasn't for the final scene with the Doctor and the TARDIS talking to Romana and K9, and the same can be said for the webcast version. But other than that scene, I find the story to be a really good, entertaining sci-fi comedy romp with lots of great twists and turns, and really enjoyable. So I'm going to give Shada a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I originally gave this version an 8 out of 10 when I first saw it, but then I watched this one version and I was blown away, and I just fell in love with the story. And after rewatching this story, I thought, actually, yeah, this one is still really great. Not quite as good as this one, but still really great. So a 9 out of 10. After watching this one, I was actually considering going to a 10. I think I've actually put that on my score sheet. I might have to change that. Nick, if you haven't already done that, do it. Especially now that you've put the score in. But I think I kind of got a bit annoyed with that policeman stuff bit, and there were the odd little issues with both versions. With this one, some scenes just feel a bit disjointed due to the narration having to link the two scenes, and so it just felt a little like they were going back to some scenes that they could have stuck around with. And with this version, the animation isn't 100% perfect. Well, I mean, it's not always, but it could have been touched up a little bit better. They could have aligned some of the audio with the speaking. It is handled really well, though, and I do love the performances, especially Tom Baker. He's acting very much like how I see the second Doctor in some of the missing animated episodes that have been reanimated. He's really energetic, and I love how the animation works just as well with Shada as it does with the Power of the Daleks and the Macra Terror. And hopefully the Faceless ones, by the looks of the trailer that came out a few weeks ago, certainly looking like it. So, yeah. And it's actually the stuff like that, this and Macra Terror, that's actually making me actually want them to actually make more animated Doctor episodes, not just reanimated missing episodes, although that may be more of a priority. But original episodes like The Infinite Quest and Dreamland and Scream the Shulker, something along those lines. Hopefully better, but something along those lines, both animation and story-wise. But I hope that something along those lines, brand new stories featuring Doctors of, all of the Doctors, let's say. Brand new animated adventures featuring any and all Doctors. The ones who are doing Big Finish, they'd be great to do stories with, as they've been perfect at making audio stories for years, especially Peter Davison, Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker, and Paul McGann. They've been doing it. Davison, C. Baker, and McCoy have been doing it for nearly 20 bloody years, and McGann not too far behind them. Tom Baker's been doing it since 2012. He also did a few radio plays back in 09, 10, and 11 that weren't Big Finish. David Tennant's been doing some since 2016, and David Bradley, who plays the first Doctor in Twice Upon a Time, he's done some since very end of 2017. So, you could have some of the Doctors back, plus also Tim Trevorrow, who's done the third Doctor. He's been doing them since 2013. So you can have a couple of Doctors back in, and maybe you can even get some of the Doctors who haven't been to Big Finish yet. You can get them in for some audio, get them into for some voice recording for animated episodes, and that would give them a bit of a taste of what's to come, like Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi, who have had voice acting experience in the games and audiobooks. So it could be a nice little taster, audio work for animated stories that would give them a taste of what they would do for the actual audio dramas that they could go and do afterwards. I'm not sure if Christopher Eccleston would be as willing to do, and I don't know who they get in for the second War Doctor, if they were allowed to do the latter. For second Doctor, I would suggest Chris Walker-Thompson, and for the War Doctor, or David Troughton, Patrick Troughton's son, and for the War Doctor, I would recommend Gary Oldman if they can get him. I think certainly watching The Black Cauldron, John Hurt in that film sounded very much like Gary Oldman to me. So I think Gary Oldman would be a very good choice to get in as a War Doctor replacement if they ever wanted to bring back the War Doctor in audio, animation, or even another TV appearance. And even you could even have Jodie Whittaker do some animated episodes between the TV stories at some point. Her Doctor could even be the main incarnation. No, well, I say could, doesn't have to be. So, yeah, that's a couple of suggestions. So, yeah, it's just a good idea. But in the meantime, we still got this, and we got the animated reanimated missing episodes, plus those small number of animated stories. So long as the any future animation that I've suggested, like new animated series that I've been suggesting, so long as it's not looking like the webcast, so long as it's 2D or 3D animation, just don't make it look like the animated stories that you've made so far, minus Dreamland, because that looks a bit weird. But the other version, and maybe the the company that did Moon-based 10th Planet and Reign of Terror, but the other versions, I think, is a good other companies and their versions are good examples to follow. Just don't make it look like the webcast version, because those ones aren't that very good animation. To me, they're more like flashing, nice drawings. Sometimes they move around, but not really. Well, not really what I would but not really what the missing episode reanimations or a new animated series would look like. And thankfully, the 2D or 3D animation that they've done for missing episodes and for the original animated stories have worked brilliantly. Not too much with Dreamland, because that animation looks a bit weird. But the other ones, okay, maybe not so much on the Reign of Terror, but certainly the other ones have worked really well. Especially the new BBC version. That is looking really great. Ooh! When the story comes out, it usually looks better than the teaser, as that's still work in progress. So maybe the Faceless ones will be even better than what we are already thinking. Yes. Well, so long as it's as good as the Macritos animated episodes. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching my review of the re-review rather, because I did an original one on the main channel. But thank you for watching this re-review of Shada. That original one was just on the 2017 version. This one's on both. And also for listening to me ramble about a potential animated Doctor Who series. And that's season 17 finished for reals this time. After the ranking, we'll be moving on to the first story of Tom Baker's 7th and final season, The Leisure Hive, from season 18. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Hello. And brand new incidental music by Sylvester McCoy. And now, of course, finally, we've come to 2017. Slightly less, there is a really great track from McCulloch's, the McCulloch track. Yeah, it does merge seamlessly with that police officer. They're perfect at audio. They can just so long as we don't have anything like the webcasts, then the animated stories should be at least they have to be 3D animation, not, or at least good 2D animation that resembles older. So long as they don't look like, so long as they're not webcasts, then 2D or 3D animation, then they can be 2D, and it can be 2D. Especially 2019's Macro Terror and 2020 next year's The Faceless Ones. 2020, especially the Macro Terror and the upcoming The Faceless Ones. Judging by the teaser alone for that one. Ooh, the teasers haven't. Ooh, the stories usually look a little more improved. Ooh. But yeah, that's it from me. Thanks for watching, and that's officially season 17 finished. After the season 17 ranking, we'll be moving on to the first story of Tom Baker's finals. Phoenix Buchanan? What are you doing here? That's right, it is I, Phoenix Buchanan, from the Paddington 2 sketches. Well, the sketches are basically set. Delicate